Evil.
Moving from one director named Paul Anderson to a different, considerably less acclaimed one, and that's a pretty big understatement, today we're discussing the first Resident Evil film, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. As with my Super Mario Bros. Film review, I went into this movie cold, since I have no experience with the Resident Evil games beyond wiki articles and Phaelus's reviews. Even taken on its own merits, Resident Evil is a pretty terrible movie, with only a few good points here and there. The film follows Alice, Milla Jovovich, an amnesiac woman who is caught up in a military investigation into the Hive, a research complex of the Umbrella Corporation. The Red Queen, the Hive's artificial intelligence, killed everyone in the Hive as a quarantine measure after an outbreak of the deadly T-virus, and when the commando team disables the Red Queen, the T-virus's victims, who have become zombies, are set loose. The opening of the film was promising. The sequence of the T-virus being released into the Hive and the Red Queen killing off the researchers in response is appropriately stressful and conveys a fitting sense of chaos and confusion. The scene introducing Alice is also fairly effective in setting up her amnesia and hinting at what's going on inside her head. It's probably the only subtle moment in the film, but the quality soon goes downhill. This is one of the most badly written movies I've seen in a while. The film dumps huge amounts of blatant exposition onto us to explain the plot, thus breaking the show-don't-tell rule in storytelling. The characters are generic tough guys with no personality, their dialogue is shallow, and they don't behave like a real military team. The acting is also very flat, especially from Milla Jovovich. Speaking of Jovovich and her character, this film is a weird instance of an amnesia plot thread that isn't really very important. As Alice and the team try to escape from the Hive, she experiences brief flashes of her former identity, and suspects that she may have been the one who caused the outbreak in the first place. But since we saw the whole debacle in the intro, and the main goal of the characters is to get out of the Hive, revealing the who and why of a disaster that already happened isn't very interesting. Furthermore, when Alice's flashbacks are shown to be red herrings, with her partner Spence, James Purefoy, being the one who betrayed Umbrella and doomed all the researchers, Alice still basically has amnesia and therefore no identity, meaning that we're left with a blank slate who we can't really care about for a protagonist. This is also a movie with very little suspense, yet has several different, lame reasons for this lack of tension. The Red Queen explains that the T-virus is airborne as well as waterborne and transmitted via biting/fluid contact, but the Umbrella Commandos don't take any precautions for this airborne transmission, and nobody except the researchers at the beginning, and presumably the zombie dogs, contracts the T-virus by breathing it in. Most of the commandos are killed by either the Red Queen or zombies, and the remainder are bitten, but since the film gives us no time frame for transformation, the film generates no impression of a looming threat or danger from the virus in their systems, except with Rain. Rain, who was bitten first, grows visibly sicker as the T-virus takes over, which suggests that the other Umbrella soldiers, who got bitten later, probably won't turn without warning. As such, there's no tension from their bite wounds. There are many scenes when Alice and the others should have been bitten and overwhelmed, but weren't, and at one point Alice and Matt, Eric Mabius, are just wandering safely, more or less, through a zombie-infested research complex. The unimportant amnesia plot thread revolving around Alice, the undefined rules for the zombies and the T-virus, long, boring stretches, and the general lack of urgency all seriously deprive this movie of dramatic tension. It also doesn't help that the Red Queen, while ruthless, had a sensible plan from the start. Resident Evil is also technically inept in multiple ways. The action is stilted and tame, with very little gore. The makeup for the zombies looks very cheap, and the CGI is awful. Now, onto the scant praise. A few videos ago, I complimented the makers of Dread for creating a realistic female action hero who isn't sexualized, and pointed out how too many action heroines are designed to be sexy for a male audience. There isn't anything necessarily wrong with using a sexy character for entertainment value, of course not. It's just nice to see realistic, well-rounded female characters in action movies, such as Ripley, Sarah Connor, and Judge Anderson. For what it's worth, Milla Jovovich is really damn hot in Resident Evil. There you go. Colin Salmon brings a certain gravitas to his role as One, despite how bland and uninteresting his character is, and it's amusing to note how, 6 years later, Salmon would play an AI construct, Dr. Moon, interacting with another AI construct in the form of a little girl in the Doctor Who Silence of the Library two-parter. Michelle Rodriguez, as Rain, is actually kinda compelling to watch. It's interesting to watch her steadily weaken and succumb to the T-virus, with Rodriguez conveying this growing sickness convincingly, yet she perseveres through her acerbic wit and feisty attitude. Also, unlike many critics, including Phalis, I thought that the corridor scene with the slicing lasers was cool and rather novel. By the way, and this is only an observation, not a criticism, is the Licker, the film's final monster boss, supposed to be a heavily mutated rabbit, given the prominence of rabbits in a couple of flashbacks? Overall, Resident Evil is an incompetently made, badly acted, dull and unexciting film. I still think that Max Payne, while not a good adaptation of the Max Payne games, is still a decent movie in its own right. Resident Evil, on the other hand, is neither a good movie or, I'm sure, an effective translation of its own game series to the screen. Resident Evil earns 2 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching. Cheers.